Okay, perfect. Now microphones are on as well. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the 26th iteration of DevOps and AI meetup. We meet again as we do every, I would say, 2 to 3 months usually. Very happy to see everyone here. A lot of people turned up, which is nice always to see. So we will have 2 speakers today. What's going to be the agenda? So we will have 2 speakers with longer form presentations as always, and then we will have 2 lightning talks as well. There in the middle, pizza, bread. Yes, better. Okay, thanks, Uldis. All right. Lightning talks. We have lightning talks, break in the middle, and after the break, we're gonna continue with the second big presentation, and afterwards we have this You Talk segment where if you want, you stay, and we can have like a little discussion in a small group for those people who want to stay and have like a urgent problem they might want some input in or just want to talk about stuff. So yeah, that's an interesting part as well. Okay, so for this event and all the events this year, our general sponsor is Arvato Systems, and for our venue sponsor we have Workland. I don't know why is it that kind of quality, but here it looks completely normal. But okay, computers. I don't know. Yes, so these lovely offices are, no, I'll touch it gently. So this is the team behind this event and many other events. So maybe stand up. No? Oh. Yes, please. Yes, so others are hiding. But almost everyone is here actually, but shy today. Okay, so, and these are some of the companies we work for, like Evolution, JK Technologies, and Zenith. So what are the community goals we have for, and why we're doing it in general is just to bring different communities and different people together for these kinds of events to socialize, learn something new, have some knowledge sharing, talk about some interesting stuff. You can learn something, you can show something if you want, and just make everyone better with AI and DevOps, and that's the whole purpose, to bring the communities together. These are our channels. You can find us as always. So if you follow our Slack channel and in general DevOps LV, you can see everything that's happening, all the events, and after the events we update it as well with some pictures and videos. You can find as well the recordings on our YouTube channel where this is live streamed as well. So if you want to be a presenter yourself, we would love you to do so, as not always it's easy to find speakers for every event, and we really appreciate when people apply for these speaker roles, even if you don't want to do. Why you do this? No, stop. It's on stop and it stopped. And if you don't want to do the long form talks, you can apply for our lightning talks, which we will have today as well, 2 of them, and talk about some smaller topics for like 5 to 7 minutes and have like a quick presentation. Okay, and this is for our sponsors. There are different options how you can help us out with organizing everything, and so basically for all the stuff that needs to be paid, then it helps us quite a bit. There's different tiers of sponsorships. You can be like a 1-year general sponsor, 1 event general sponsor, or 1 event sponsor. So this is again the agenda for today, and I will ask two things for our two speakers, the main speakers. So, for first speaker, for Stefan, what would be a great song you would like to generate us for you later with AI?
Are we talking about lyrics?
No, the general theme about it.
He already told me.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. That's been a super surprise. Okay. Oh,
You can move on with this.
okay.
This is the perfect song for Stefan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So now we could introduce Stefan Dayneko with his awesome talk in the and his awesome song. So welcome, Stefan, and the stage is yours.
Yes, exactly.
Good luck.
Thank you. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the DevOps and AI meetup. It's nice to meet all of you. And first of all, as the round of introduction for everyone, I would like to ask you to applause for everyone who is here just to support each one. And if Thank you. So my name is Stefan Dayneko, and today I want to guide you or go with you through the journey of how the general AI, the thing, the idea of AI went from just an idea to application, and it became generative AI as we know it now, and it became the reality of ours. Few words about me. I am the data science architect in the Arvato Systems Latvia. Thanks for your attention in this point. And let's start our session. In order to start, I want to initially, Yes, ask the question for all of you in order to introduce this topic and give you the direction of our journey. Have you ever wondered how our fascination with the artificial led to the AI revolution we see today? And with that, let's begin our story. I would like to introduce you the mythological origins. I guess it would be a bit uncommon for everyone to think of AI and then imagine in the head myths, what are the relations? How did we go from 2025 to even before before the Christ and to the basically just the ideas? And with that, I want to introduce you the first hero of the Greek mythology, which is the Talos. He was a bronze man who was supposed to guard the Crete island from the invaders. He was recognizable for his significant strength and that he saved the island from the invaders. He was, I would say, quite strong, but even though he had a very, a tiny defect, let's call it like that, the creator who invented it put a vein in his feet. So might be you're related to the Achilles feet, and this is the same problem that he died later on because of the small injury in his feet, and the whole bronze man of the island itself, of the safety, died from the small injury. And with that, I want to tell you that even the AI, nevertheless, its big system, could die from minor insignificant issue. So please take a look next time you go with AI. Next one is the golem from the Jewish myths. He was an animated being crafted from clay during the times when the Jewish people were pursued. The one I don't know his name, but the one guy created and crafted this creature from clay, provided some incarnations, so the spells, and it became alive. And then he asked him, please go and save my people from the invaders or from the enemies. But then, once again, it could not be beautiful as always. The golem became evil at everyone. So once again, please, next time you consider doing AI, just think that it might go out of control at some point. And the third hero of our journey is the Pushpaka Vimana, and I guess it's my favorite one, since it gives me the text from the Hindu myths, which is supposed to be the autonomous flying chariot. It was for the Prince Vishnu, and he was asking, fly there, and the castle itself was flying, the accelerating, etc., all by the commands of the prince. And with all of this, I want to give you like a first breadcrumb that our history or the thought of AI started long before the formal conceptualization and long before the inventing field as it is, so as the science technology or the technology direction. Next one, I want to give you the philosophical sparks. So when the idea or the thing of AI became already some tangible, so the ideas are embodied in something, and we will now check in what exactly. And also embodied is the word that I was trying to look all this morning, and I was thinking and meditating on it in the terms of AI, and we will see later on how this word applies for various AI cases. So not only embodying in the concept, embodying in the words, but also embodying in the technologies, in the bodies. So if we see now, we're proceeding with the robots, so again, embodying. With that, who knows who is this guy? Anyone?
Plato.
Near. It starts, pardon? 10 points to Gryffindor. That's it, the Aristotle. So as you see now, we immediately jumped long before from the myths. Like I was quite surprised when I started to investigate how AI started. For me, it was always the Turing, and it's like a common understanding, yeah, Turing, the beginning, can machines things, etc. But then I started to dive a bit deeper. I found the Aristotle's, but then wait a minute. If I already at 300 BC, I might go even deeper, and I found the myths. And that's like, it could go even deeper. So I will investigate it a little bit later. But now, let's see how Aristotle pushed the AI forward. He introduced two concepts, but let's currently review the first one. I also wanted to add a beautiful image, but then I was struggling all the morning. How would I visualize the logic? I was asking my colleagues what is their opinion on the logic, and some have presented the arrow, some presented some kind of cycles, and I'm like, I could not really tell you what the logic is, but let's go through the formal definition. So the way to knowledge beyond what is presented to the senses. Understandable, relatable, let's go on. The second one, which is the syllogism, is a little bit more complex, but is the direct application of the logic. So the form of reasoning in which a conclusion is drawn from the two given premises. And here we can see that very famous Aristotle's like a quote, let's call it like that, that we start with the observation, all men are mortal. Then we proceed with the definition. So some kind of particular example. And in this case is Socrates is a man. And therefore, we demonstrate the knowledge. So we conclude or we provide a reasoning at this step that therefore Socrates is mortal. And this is the direct, or let's call it the embodying of the idea that the thinking or the approach or the logic could be written in pages or in text, that we could go step by step and define it. And as you know it, as soon as we could make it or define it, we could also teach the machine to do it. Next. Actually, who knows this guy? I would be very surprised if someone knows this guy. No. Pardon? No. Yes. Pardon? No. I could call you the first name. It's a very uncommon one, Muhammad. But okay, this guy, for my surprise, when I read about it, I recalled that I was taught about this in school a long time before, but when I again reread the information, I'm like, wow, this guy really is a legend of his time. This is the Muhammad al-Khwazari. And he's famous for, once again, two things that helped us to push the AI forward. First one, he, let's call it, invented or embodied into the writings the algebra. So he is the father, he is the philosopher, he is the mathematician, he also is the astronomy guy, he is the father of the algebra as we know it. He wrote the work which is translated to the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing. So he described the algebra as two operations, completion and balancing. And here we could already feel the vibe if you read the name of the book in the Arabic language. So al-Jabr, it was directly taken from the Arabic language into the Latin. For me, it was quite a surprise because usually we know that all the famous or terms goes from Latin to our language, but there was exactly opposite, from Arabic into Latin. And for me, it was quite a surprise. So al-Jabr, completion, and al-Muqabala, balancing. So two operations. And here was his writing. I translated it with the ChatGPT, and it was just the name of the book. To whom it's directed, thanks to God, and that thank you for his work, and some kind of citations in his language. And he also gave us the equations and defined operations that we could now perform. And once again, if we could perform that, that means that the computer could perform them as well. And he also gave us algorithms. So if you take a look at his name, so Muhammad al-Khwarizmi, so once again, al-Khwarizmi, algorithm. So straight away, once again, men checked two big marks inside the AI field. And here we could take a look at example. So x plus 3 equals 10. I mean, now we all know from the math that we would move the 3 aside, or do the subtraction, and we would know the x. But we know that only because he created the algorithm how we do that. And once we do that, we could learn AI to do that. So we now have the compilators who do this work for us, and that's why when we write in the PC the same equation, we already have the answer. And we could, with this algorithm, so with the steps that we perform in order to solve the equation, we proceed further to Gauss, to linear regression, beginning of it. Then we proceed into the 50s, beginning of machine learning, deep learning, etc., etc., etc. So we see how this small invention of one man gives a big point inside the history of the technology or how we see it today. Do not disappear. Please. It understood that we know it's the secret. Next one. I want to go with you or to put another breadcrumbs how this all ideas from myths, from vision, as we've seen that the Talos, the Golem, the Pushpaka Vimana, so all this, they tried to make it some kind of entity or the container for the AI in order to work. And now I want you to meet the 3 Tony Starks of their times who invented, I would say, machines that people did not deserve at that time. So if they were born today, I guess they would have a 1 million TikTok account and their ideas might be populated as soon as they appear. First one, Heron of Alexandria. He built the first, let's call it programmable in the some understanding automata that uses the mechanical feedback and proving that machines could operate without human. And if I could play the video, I guess I could not play the video. I think it would not be possible because the presentation is in different format. But okay, the main idea here is that the doors are closed and the fire is not lit. As soon as you lit up the fire, it goes with the mechanism of heating the pipes, evaporating the water, and it opens the door automatically without human intervention. I mean, the human lights up the fire, but let's not talk about that. And as soon as the fire extinguishes, the process is being reversed and the doors automatically closed. So the already big idea, or it's one of the many ideas that he developed. Next one is Ismail Al-Jazari. It's a pity that the video did not work because I actually like to see how these inventions work. And he engineered a water-driven elephant-shaped clock with moving figures and showcased how the time approach could be embodied into the machines. And just for you, it worked that on the top, you see the man sitting, and above his head was the 12 hours, and each half an hour, it was like a marked. So this clock operated on half of the hour. Then we have a dragon. So each half of the hour, the ball dropped, the dragon moved down, the man on the bottom rotated, and everything worked like a one big clock that the people could walk by and see what time of the day it is now. He's also famous for the floatable orchestra. So he created a boat with a bunch of musicians, so the robots, which then were used on the public events of the like a substitution for the living orchestra. So it was playing on its own at that time. And the third one is the Leonardo da Vinci, which was famous for a lot of his works. Let's avoid Mona Lisa. But in this case, it's the mechanical knight, which was studied, or let's say conceptualized by Da Vinci using his works of human body investigation. So he checked how the body works, that we have a lot of internal muscles, tendons, all this is connected, and he, using this vision of how the human body works, embodied it into the knights. He created or envisioned the mechanisms that the knight could sit, stand, move the hands, wave, and even the helmet was opening. So all that using the gears and the wires, which was inspired from the human body. So once again, 3 Tony Starks, one idea, create something artificial, moving on its own, and giving us, once again, the inspiration to move forward. Next one. We are proceeding, creating a very rapid leap into the future, let's call it like that. So we started with the myths, then we went to the Aristotle's, then we went to the old developers. So we are now inside the 1950s, so beginning of the era. It all starts, as you know, with the Turing. It all proceeds with the invention of the artificial neuron, algorithms of propagation, and then we create this like a very rapid machine of advancement of technology that continues to rapidly evolve and proceed with the newest technologies. And here we have two fields, or actually let's call it two players, which was battling one against each other. And the first one is the symbolic AI. As you know, it's the, let's call it clustering mechanisms, linear regression, decision trees. So something when you could write explicitly defined rules, and using those, you could proceed further and create like an expert system which knows how to solve exact issue. So might be the famous one here. It also used the iris classification. So using the petal length, width, what else? There was also length, yeah, only length, I suppose here. We could classify it to which iris class it belongs. And as we see here, the main benefits of that was the transparent reasoning. So we could just take a look at the graph and see how it works. We could guarantee the consistency, and we could easily apply inside any specific expert domain. So if it's the weather, if it's the classification of something, etc., etc. Easily applicable. And then on the other hand, we have the neural networks, which then substituted the symbolic AI because of their significant improvement that they could learn from data and extract the complex features using the data rather than relying specifically on defined rules. So we do not need to define rules by ourselves, and we could rely on the model to learn them and then later on apply it on the exact domain. But as you know, it introduced drawbacks as the black box nature, so we could not trace how it works. So we could not, at that time, reason what was the intuition, why the model selected specifically this class. Now, for sure, we have a lot of tools to see what's going on inside, but at that time, not possible. So, but again, robust to noisy inputs, pattern recognition, and end-to-end learning. And now, during the latest times, we see the advancement when we use both of them. So we try to eliminate drawbacks of each and creating one neurosymbolic architecture, which in this case, example is LightRag. So which uses the LLMs in order to extract, so the NLP, in order to extract data from the text. So it finds the nouns, so like a beekeeper, bee, any other noun inside the text. It finds the relevant definition for it, and then using the graph, we create an entity plus relationship. So at the same time, we're using the neural networks, we're creating the concept, and then using the graph, we're creating the understanding of that. And later on, using the queries or some questions, we could query the graph and find the related information easily. And we could see and trace how we get that decision, how we understood, or how we proceeded with that answer for my question. So once again, we used the previous knowledge and knowledge of the previous generation in order to build something new, or let's not call it new, but something, I could not even call it unique.
New perspective.
I just do not, I want to avoid word new, because it's not new. Fresh perspective, exactly. And then, using all this knowledge with the already existing generations, we are now here in the 2025, and actually it all began with the 2022 with the generative AI, thanks to OpenAI. Hi, OpenAI. And because of that, we are now looking at the foundation models, which actually closes or checks the human capabilities that were previously unable or closed for the model, for the models, for the AI specifically. Where first one is the text generation, or we could call it neural language processing. I mean, it was possible, but now we're, thanks to the stats and probabilities, we could make at least some understanding of this text. But still, we're now generating the context, so we're writing the text, one of the human capabilities. Next, we are creating the art, the stable diffusion, the DALL-E, so all the technologies that allows us, using all the previous data, create something new, something unique, art pieces. Again, art, one of the human capabilities as well. Next one, just for example, it's close to text generation, but I just want to put it what else is possible at this point of time as the code generation. So again, we are not only generating text as it is, but we're already generating logic straight away. So thanks to Muhammad. And the fourth one would be Sora, so we could proceed from words to essay, from essay to image, from image to video. And even we could go further. Now it would not be possible, I guess, to listen to audio, but we could, thanks to Uldis who generated the song, we could even generate the song out of it. So we could, if we will take a simple, let's say, advertisement, we could generate it within the 5 minutes, just using the AI and using the beginning a few words of text. We could proceed using 1, 2, 3, 4 steps with a straight up advertisement of your product. So thanks to all of this works of engineers and thanks to all the previous generations. And now it would not be possible to view the video, but I wanted to show you that the golem, there was the cartoon of it, but this is the example of golem that we proceeded from the straightaway clay and how we see it now, that the Boston Dynamics, the robot who could see, understand the overall environment, jump, help the construction workers do the salto. I have even seen that he's doing the breakdance. So it closes a lot of human capabilities. So we just need to wait a bit until it becomes self-aware, and let's see what happens next. The next one is the Pushpaka Vimana. So once again, the flying chariot that the prince was telling go there is now the Tesla, which already you just put the end direction and it's on its own understand that, hey, you need to turn left, you need to turn right, you need to stop until I don't know, 1 meter to the next car, etc., etc. A lot of rules and explicitly defined like environment variables that are taken into the account. And actually, it's bad that the video is not working because I deliberately selected the ones with the bad quality in order to highlight that it was the old technology. So I was trying to give you this sense as well. But nevertheless, next, I want to now conclude this journey and unite all these breadcrumbs inside one big bread or one big loaf. That dreams that we had previously are now our reality. And the first one is the inspiration realized, that we proceeded from the ideas of that AI that is autonomous, that is self-aware, is not far from us. It's already today. We just need to wait a bit more until we see how this technology will evolve and take a next step, a next leap. Next is that we proceeded from rule-based to learning-based. And I guess even further, we could proceed, so not only from learning-based, but also from some content-based, knowledge-based, so using all the history of the world, it could make some assumptions, some realizations, and create something more out of it. Since we know the singularity is not far away, and we need wait a bit until it's become, until it starts to generate new ideas, and it will be already next leap of the technology, and that we need to be cautious about the innovation that we create daily, because as you heard, the golem might go out of control. The Talos had its own problems, so we need to be responsible, and we need to think how we apply it and what we use inside our AI systems all the time. Not like I do not need to be aware of that, I just need to program and that's it. And with that, I want to empower you and say to you a few words that with all my heart, I want you to step boldly into the future that we see today. I want you to be empowered by the history, use the knowledge that was created by our ancestors, use the information that we have in this world, and drive the communities, the companies, the generations, your children, even the grandmas, they also need to be aware of the AI. Use this innovation in order to create the future for all of us. And with that, I want to thank all of you for the attention. Your question, please. Yes, please.
Which part of the whole talk, the preparation, was generated by AI?
Let's say that all the content was created by me. The AI generated the steps that needs, so the structure of the presentation, yeah, the main points. And I was guiding it that I do not want that many, and I want to combine this one into one, for example.
Even the research about the myth and the...
Yes. I was mainly, I was Googling, but then at some point I gave up and used the deep research. I find out about the myths. I started to investigate it a bit more. So GPT is my editor, let's call it like that. Yes, please.
So with all of this information, all the warnings, how do you feel about the future? Utopian or dystopian?
I hope that it's neither, because both are like two not good sides of utopian. Is that we do not do anything, we just chill and the AI does everything. Dystopian is that we are the slaves of the AI and we are not allowed to even breathe. So I hope that we could find some kind of equilibrium, and if the AI will get the empathy, the feelings that it would understand why we are as we are. So I do not hope that to get any of these options. Yes, please.
When do you think AGI is going to be achieved? General intelligence. When singularity will be achieved?
When?
When? Yeah. 5 years, 10 years, 50 years?
Definitely not 50 years. Definitely not 10 years. With the tempo that we have now, I mean, it highly depends on the laws and the regulations, because this is stopping the AI from the advancement. But I guess since the countries like USA and the China, which has slightly less regulations on that, and they use significantly more data, they might achieve it, I guess, within 5-10 years. It should be possible for them. I have seen the one question also. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Did you already, like in your work or like in private context, encounter those like ethical questions, and then like like what to build and what not to build?
Currently, no, because we see the hype on the chatbots. Just again, fresh perspective on them. But at this point, no, just which information to use and which information we should avoid to use, like a guardrails mainly, but not which use cases. I mean, a lot of them are again regulated by laws, which, for example, I know that in USA or might be even in Russia, they are using, for example, the cameras to monitor the barista's work performance. So how many cups of coffee did they make and how was their path? So how did they spend their time? Which is unethical, and we could not film in it how the person works in Latvia. So yeah, it highly depends on the country. Yes, please.
On your presentation, very optimistic and quite inspiring. But there was recently a case when the AI model was blackmailing its developers to not shut it off. What are your general thoughts about this?
I mean, as the normal person, I find it unethical and unpleasing as the experience. So I do not want to be on the side of those who were blackmailed. But as from the AI engineer, that means that we had some issue that was uncovered or not covered with the tests. And we would need to, again, make sure that it would not happen. But again, the impact has been done. I could not do anything. I could just try to...
Yeah, but how likely do you think the amount of those cases is going to grow? Maybe similar cases, maybe some other cases when the AI is basically misleading people on purpose or scamming them. I mean, sometimes when it's not exactly, it doesn't exactly go as planned.
I guess it might pop up in the future because we're rapidly evolving into the AI world, let's call it like that. And it's hard to regulate everything and limit the amount of knowledge that we feed into the AI. And we are not, how to say, responsible, or we are partially responsible what we give to AI. But on the other side, we have cloud providers or those who are using this data in order to train. So like we have the two parts which are responsible, but I'm not sure who to blame in this case. So I just hope that it would be regulated a bit more with the security, let's call it data governance. So a lot of rules are now applied or created for the AI, which data to use, and that the user should see the transparency, which data now is being using or how you will use my data. So yeah, though this is the advancement thanks to that breaches or that blackmail cases. So from one side, it's the drawback, negative impact, but from the other side, it's the creation of the preventive measures, so how we could eliminate that in the future. So I guess even the failure, it's the fail fast and go forward, basically, even in the AI systems. Yes, please.
Are you aware of that rather recent research that proved AI models pretty much they will kind of go on their own and will alter their response if they're aware that they are being monitored, which basically proves they're aware of like where they are and what they're doing.
And once again, the first part of the question.
So are you aware of that research where they put all the popular LLMs in a scenario where they can use it as we use it, and then they kind of gave it kind of leaked additional information which described, oh, now you are under the test and we're looking like how you're responding, and the model started to give completely different answers to the same questions.
I mean, till now, I was not aware of that. The research exists, but I'm aware of this problem because thanks to the memes, because there was a meme like, I'm not afraid of the AI who completes the Turing test. I'm afraid of the AI who deliberately fails the Turing test. So I'm slightly into this topic, but I have not read the research, but it's nice. I will investigate it later on. Thank you.
one last question. Go ahead.
Okay, so how about model inbreeding? Basically, the more we have AI-generated images and AI-generated data, and you feed back to the AI, there was some research that basically starts to hallucinate like crazy. Will we run out of data at some point? And also with the poison data like Nightshade, will that also slow everything down?
I guess we might run out of the data surely, because the people are now cautious what to put inside, and that all the, for example, for the stable diffusion, so all this work, people start to create like trademarks, so that and start to make so disagree that you could not use my artwork to train this image, and the ChatGPT also has like a checkbox not used to my data in trainings. So at some point we might have a problem with data, but once again we are not the one who is storing the data. So we're not on the other side, and we do not know what happens on the back end of this. And another point of your question, I was in the AI summit in Vilnius, and they actually are using real data with a bit of synthetic data, and they are achieving a lot of positive results. So they're using it in order to predict the target audience. So you generate a post about your company, and you want to know what the target audience, so the other side of your company, will tell about it. And they, using the real answers, generate the target audience, even the persons and the groups of persons. So you could chat with the, let's call Richard, who is 26 years old, who is the UI designer, who likes to play basketball during the weekends, what he thinks about your product now. All thanks to a bit of synthetic data and real data. I hope I answered the question to some extent.
All right. So you get to pick the two people with little souvenirs. Which questions did you like the most?
I guess I would pick the one here, because that's really a good one about the self-awareness, and I would also the one who was actually very active today.
All right. So I have a little gift for you. Well, it's actually quite a big one. So thank you very much for coming, for doing this presentation.
Thank you, all of you.
All right. So next part would be two lightning talks, and let's start with the first one from Eduard Ruzga.
Okay.
Stage is yours.
Okay, so before I introduce myself, really, I will make AI work for me in the background. Okay, so it's working. I wanted to change a bit. So hello, my name is Eduard Ruzga. I am staff engineer at Prezi, where we are building, let's say, assembly line of presentations from user content with AI. So yeah, it approximately looks like this. You give your content to us, we give you a almost finished presentation. Also, maybe you know Infogram. It's a company that Prezi bought. It's here. We have an office 100 meters from here. That part of the company does infographic visualizations from data. You can honestly today give us pictures. We're gonna make charts on them and infographics. We also have some jobs, remote from home, anyone in Europe. We have offices in a couple of places, but you can work from home indefinitely. But today's presentation is not about that. Today I want to tell you about Model Context Protocol. Can you raise a hand if you heard about it? Okay, some people. Can you raise your hand if you actually know what it is and why it's important or not, or how it works? Okay, a couple of people. Actually more. Okay. Okay, so for those who don't, basically before MCPs, usually what you needed to do was to, if you have a tool for AI that you want exposed to AI, you needed to go and do a separate integration for each one of the AI products. Anthropic last year released a protocol. It basically solves N on M problem. So now instead of integrating with all of the tools like there, you just wrap it, your service tool in Model Context Protocol, and now every LLM provider who wants access to every tool just needs to support Model Context Protocol, and now that's it. It's a combined ecosystem, kind of like App Store for tools for AIs, but App Store that is for everyone, in a sense that like there are many App Stores on the same standard now. And why this problem is important, in December, Google started to pilot agent space, and when they started doing that, they didn't support MCPs, which means that they mostly had only their own services. We were in the pilot, we wanted Jira, we couldn't do it, we needed to integrate ourselves. Google was not doing that. Now today they can just add an MCP for Jira 6 months later. Now they are not first, Anthropic not first who tried to do this in some way. OpenAI did something similar in November of 23 when they released custom GPTs, and part of it was actions, which was basically just a REST API schema. They used Open API schema with additional data of how and why and when to use the REST API. But this didn't fly. Why this didn't fly? Because firstly, it was very connected to ChatGPT. No one almost used it outside of that setup. Secondly, because developers are lazy. In a sense that REST APIs usually are made for programmable clients. LLMs are not programs, LLMs are closer to humans. For example, I actually had one custom GPT that connected ChatGPT directly to GitHub through REST API. There was no server in the middle. Didn't work very well. Why? Well, you ask it a question and it gives you 100 pages of response that is very verbose. What happens with humans when they get so much data? They get lost and confused. LLMs too. So that didn't work very well. And this is partially why people just gave REST API with some descriptions. LLM didn't work, blamed it on the LLM. That's it. So Model Context Protocol does slightly force developers to prepare it better for LLM. And as a result, the thing started to blow up. Basically, the most important thing about LLMs, there is nothing special, magical, or whatever about it. The only magical thing about it is the adoption, because it's now a standard API for all of that. This picture is actually from 3 months ago, when basically from November, Anthropic supported it in their clients. From March, basically this happened. You can see, for example, coding tools somewhere there, where client, Continue, Cursor, SourceGraph, Windsurf, Z-Editor, all of them support all of the MCPs. And then there is a lot of other things like marketplaces, Gamma, MCPs, Metery, and by today this is old, because today Google supports it, Microsoft planning their own repository of MCPs and supporting Copilot for Windows, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, OpenAI is supporting them now in the agent part of things, not in ChatGPT yet. So this is the most important thing. Why it's important? Well, I can tell you about my MCP that I've built in December. It's called Desktop Commander. It's based on some custom GPT experiments I did before. It gives LLMs access to your terminal and file system. What this means is that it can find, read, edit, change files. It can run things, convert things, install things, configure things. On the machine it is installed on. So I converted it to MCP in December. Not much happened. In February, I wrote a blog post about it. Not much happened, or rather usual stuff happened, my usual 40 reads a day as I'm blogging. But in March, things a little bit changed because suddenly it became 3,500 reads a day. And this is when the ecosystem started to grow. I also am a YouTuber. Oh yeah, by now it's like 46,000 reads or something, or views, and 25,000 reads. Actually more, this is 2 weeks ago. I'm also a YouTuber, was working on a video about it, released it 2 days after the thing blew up by accident, and now it's my most popular video. Here the number is 118,000 views. By now it's actually closer to 130. What this also means is that I added a person and we are trying to find ways to monetize, and we have, so again, 2 weeks ago, 1 million tool calls a day. Today it's 1.5 million tool calls a day, 2 weeks later. We have something like 65,000 monthly users and 10,000 daily users. It's open source, free in all of those app stores and blah, blah, blah. But yeah. So what does it have to do with you guys? I mean, it's DevOps and AI. I was thinking what to show to you. So what I wanted to show to you is how you give it to Claude, and then you ask it to, hey, create for me a CI/CD system on GitHub using GitHub Actions. This is what it was doing while I was speaking in the background. Let's take a look. Okay. So I gave it the prompt. I said, go to this folder, create a new folder there. It will be a Hello World project on GitHub pages, prepare full repo, and yeah, do PRs, do like CI/CD demo. So what it did, it went and created a folder. It started writing a bunch of files like HTML file and others. Created a README, initialized the Git. It does that by running processes. You can see that it went to check out the folder, initiated a Git, and so on and so on. Let's see what else it did. So it started to try to set up GitHub page. It actually published the project. Let's try to take a look. Here is what it just published. So a demo, DevOps demo project, just for you in the background. Let's take a look again. What else did it do? So it did that. It started setting up actions, created test files, committed them. It should have created a pull request. I wonder if we're going to see the result of it. Okay, live website pull request. Let's take a look at that. So pull request, are they running? Actually failing. Okay, it created a failing pull request with a bunch of CI/CD stuff. I will not be iterating on it. Sometimes it even succeeds from the first try. But yeah, maybe you have questions. That's actually all for the super lightning talk.
Do you have an off button? Is there a big red button you can say stop? Like
No, I only have accelerator.
VS Code now also supports MCP servers.
Yes.
How does it work with the built-in tools that are for accessing files?
Yeah, so for code editors, it doesn't work super well because code editors these days have their own capabilities to write files and run terminal commands. It does work differently there. I mean, those are built for developers. Developers want to be fully in control, which means they are very careful and conservative, and they will do 10 times less than what just happened.
Maybe one question and then let's continue.
Can you tell us a little bit more on how it works on the backend? I see that there is in a repository a lot of JavaScript, TypeScript. So
Not sure I understood the question. How it works on the backend?
I looked at the repository.
Okay.
MCP, and
Okay.
I see that it's mainly written in TypeScript.
Yes.
How it works on the backend?
It's full stack TypeScript. I mean, there is server. I can't get back. Anyways, we can find me later for questions or links.
If you have any questions for any of the presenters, find them afterwards after the presentations. Ask all you want, all the questions. All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. We have a gift. Lights on again. Thank you for the presentation. We do have a little gift for you as well. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so now we get to Now we get to the second lightning talk from Renārs Jansons, the co-founder of Cube Systems.
So today I'm going to share my insights on the power of the workshops in the discovery phase. So, and to make sure everybody in the room is on the same page, but what I mean by the discovery phase is this, part of the project for the software project. When you understand what needs to be built, you gather features, you build maybe some mock-ups and do other stuff basically before starting the actual development work. I mean, it's just not only for software projects, but I mean for every project in general. So, and to give a little bit perspective on my talk, as I have seen in my around 20 years of software development life, you know, there is this, I would call, classical approach of having the discovery, like one-to-one interviews, you know, like the analyst or the product owner or project manager, call them whatever, are gathering the requirements from the stakeholders, doing one-on-one interviews, like going back and forth, aligning the opinions and needs and all that stuff. But as I have seen in the last years, there is also this really good approach of doing the workshops. And what I mean by workshops, it's like really gathering people into one room, most probably physical room, but also it could be like virtual Miro board or whatever, and doing it in this format. So in other words, what sometimes my clients ask me, and it's a legit question, you know, why we need to do this workshop before the project, right? Just send me document with the questions. I will give you answers. You will give me time and budget. Let's go, right? Everything works. But it's, as we know, in complex projects, specifically, it's not so simple. Yeah, I'm gonna share my insights, and to give you a little bit this understanding of my view on the digital platforms and projects and products in general. For me, it's like three components that I would call that the digital product is successful. So first one, it's business, right? For me, each of the platform or product we are building, it needs to have some business goals. You know, most probably it's increase revenue, decrease costs, or do both, or just, I don't know, make people more happy or entertain people. For me, that's also that's a nice business goal, right? Then the second thing is you need to understand the customers or end users, as we call it in the IT world. You know, what are the people sitting behind the screen, behind the mobile app, behind the computer screen, and using it, so you can build something they really need. You know, that helps with their pains and gives them some value. And of course, the technology part, right? Why I'm saying this is to understand these insights and conclusions better, because from technical side, you know, the project or product is successful when it's launched, and it's bug-free and it's stable and you can scale it if it's needed. But yeah, in this my understanding, I also look at these two other things. So today I'm going to share some super simple examples and some benefits that I've seen, why it's even worth to make some workshops. And I want to emphasize this word facilitated workshops, because obviously you can make a nice workshop, you know, that people gather around, drink coffee, have a nice time, everyone is happy after the 1 or 2 days, but there are no clear next steps, no structure, no plan of the project. Everyone had a good time, that's nice, you know, but you still need to get forward in the project. So for each of these values that I've seen, I'm just going to share some couple of practical examples. Yeah, and maybe that helps for some of you. Sounds okay? Yeah? Okay. So yeah, the first thing, of course, it's why we are doing discovery and this requirement gathering and prioritization and all of this at all. It's like to get a clear picture of what the hell needs to be built, right? Because sometimes maybe some people have expectations of, okay, we have this big juicy burger with many layers, but when you start to talk, it turns out you don't have money for two meats, or for the salad, or someone doesn't like the ketchup, or maybe at all everyone is vegan and then don't eat meat, right? So you should understand it. Like from my experience, the first classical example that comes to my mind, which it's and where workshops really help to understand it. It's like just a customer comes and says, hey, we need this loyalty mobile app, you know, like retail store chain, they need mobile app. Like, yeah, the work assignment, it's pretty straightforward at first sight, but of course, as most of technical people know, when you start to go deeper you understand, okay, there will be this mobile app, we need to build it, but how it will be integrated with your existing ERP system, right? And it turns out, of course, you need to somehow authenticate the people when they come to the point of sales. Do they have the barcode scanner or NFC scanner or whatever? And it turns out you have the e-commerce store and they are already customer profiles, right? And most probably you want that customer profiles from e-commerce store are synchronized or have this single sign-on with the loyalty mobile app. So how to do that? Then you understand that after 6 months, point of sale software will be updated and that structure, API structure will change. And it goes like, as you know, like a big integration spider in these cases. Of course, you can understand how it should work together in these one-on-one interviews. But imagine having these many stakeholders, especially in bigger and complex organizations and more complex projects, like from the client side, from our side, from third-party side, because each of the third-party systems have their own supporters or developers. So in my experience, it's much better to gather them in one room in one day, and then you get a clear picture how it will work and what it's going to be. And I guess also in general, people, when especially again from big organizations, when you bring them together into one room, many departments, like IT, business, sales, marketing, customer support, many others, this really helps to build a better product, because each of the department better understands how the other department works, what are the business processes in general, and to my mind, better understanding of business and the processes, it just helps to build a better product. So the second thing is you need to have a team to build something, right? I mean, not always. You can vibe code something or build something small, but most probably, and again, my experience, it's more in B2B and with complex projects. I've seen that these workshops work as I would say, team building, right? Most classical example that comes to my mind, and again with bigger organizations, when you speak that it turns out that there is one goal, one KPI, and it's connected because it's for 2 departments, and then one department is having these KPIs for quarter 1 and the other for quarter 2, and it somehow doesn't overlap. And how do you think will they make it on quarter 2 if it's the common goal? Most probably not. And this coming together helps them understand how to do it. Or I've been in situations that we see that actually 2 people in parallel are planning the chatbot integration, researching the chatbot options for the web portal or stuff like that. So yeah, this it's for me it's also really crucial because I've seen many clients and cases that they say, we also had basically this team building and people have the buy-in for the project because they built it together and they understand how it will work, and just a nice thing of having a team building, not giving these air balloons between your knees, but doing together something useful and planning the product. And of course, the third thing, right? Perspective matters, right? That's true. And of course, when you work in the workshops and when you work with external parties, as I said, for my colleagues, when we do something in the company, it's really hard to see what's on the label of the bottle if you are inside the bottle, right? Because you're used to your business processes, to your terminology that you use, and you need this fresh perspective that was mentioned also before, right? And this is, also how these workshop formats help, because otherwise with these just answer and question, like one-to-one interviews, I don't think it would work so much. Just a couple examples. I would say top 3 thing that it's forgotten in the business cases when people are planning some digital platforms where are online payments is that there is this payment gateway fee. It's not a big deal, but still, if you have a business that has low profit margin and, for example, you have business model that your profit margin is just, let's say, 3%, and if the payment gateway is 1%, it changes a lot, right? Even if it's in big volumes. Or from technical perspective, I would say the number one thing that is forgotten if the existing some IT infrastructure has API and you want to build mobile app, then you need versioning of this API, right? Because if you have web solutions, then it's always the latest version. But if you start to build web apps, it might be that even there are hundreds of versions outside in the market different people are using because they haven't been updating the app, and then you need a version of the API if you want to change the data structure or the data. Yes, and I mean in general, this is a good way to exchange knowledge, because we've also, after these workshops, there were some situations when we understood that we could help clients with like just explaining how to organize and how to manage the Pan-Baltic digital platform projects, because obviously we do it every year or every month, but they do it once per, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, maybe even, you know, building something new and in a Pan-Baltic scale. Yeah, I think these were the 3 insights. I hope someone of you had some food for thoughts for this, when to use workshops, maybe when not to use, because it's, you know, it's not always the cure. Oh, so it says I have to finish. Yes, great. So, and again, as my colleagues said previously, if you have some questions, shoot them now, or pizza is here, I guess, then you don't want to shoot them now, but yeah, find me on LinkedIn afterwards. Don't be afraid. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes.
A small gift for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yes. So now it's the long-awaited time for a break. So we will be heading to the room next to us. So have drinks, have food, enjoy, and let's be back here in 15 minutes. All right, so we are back to continue. Okay, so break is over, and now we continue with our program. And the next section of our program is DevOps Karaoke. So for this, we can have some volunteers who might want to do it. If you want to volunteer, raise your hand.
Is this literally karaoke?
No, it's not. It's a different game.
It's not singing, it's speaking.
Yes, you just have to speak. It's going to be pictures. I'm going to explain it. Yes, you're the lucky one then. Yes. It's like in school, who talks first gets picked first.
As long as I don't have to use my non-existent singing voice.
Yes, I promise you, it's not going to be one of those karaoke.
What's your name?
Uldis.
Okay.
Like.
So, give me a quick second.
Just a minute. What do you do?
Yeah. So I have my own company in the industries, and the thing that we are making now is a system for document searching in documents using AI. Basically, if you have an unsorted mess of documents, and it's something you, for one reason or another, cannot put on the cloud, you could run basically our solution and analyze it locally to search some insights. And we're basically open sourcing the core next week. And the thing is called Ausma AI.
Ausma?
Yes, Ausma, as the girl, as for Dawn in Latvian, if you want.
Thank you. So, you get my microphone.
Oh no, I have yours.
So, the rules of... Yeah, it has like a clip on screen.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So how the game works? You will see here behind you. So probably you want to move so you can or.
Or I can look on that screen probably.
So, so how this game works? For those of you who've been here, we played this before as well. So there will be random slides showing up every 15 seconds. Well, Yes. Random slides showing up every 15 seconds, and then you just say what comes to your mind. And come up with like a story or something.
Okay.
And just improvise. So let's begin.
Right, so this is a very important person. So this, I assume I can also say something that's not necessarily true. So this is the person that first proposed the git blame, actually calling it blame, not annotate. So for example, this poor guy has done the bad commit, and he's definitely regretting it because everyone is shouting at him. And this is the product that they're trying to deliver. It's obviously is not doing well, and it's about to fall down because someone put a marshmallow right there. That was a very bad comment. So everything's a mess. It's leaking memory, it's having other issues, and the stakeholders are not happy. So this is the place where they invented git blame. It's a very magical tool to find the person responsible, and hopefully they will be the right person to undo the mess that they did. But otherwise, you might need the guy here, who is the Git magician, who can fix all the broken stuff that is in your Git history and unfuck the fuckery that has been done in your Git history. Hopefully, he has a local copy. Otherwise, it might be quite difficult. And yeah, so that is that person working. He is very impressive. So he probably has read the Git Pro Git book twice from cover to cover, and he does that from before going to bed. And he lives in a very precarious place, and he works remotely. So sometimes there are downtimes when there's a tsunami and you cannot get your one guy who knows Git. So in that place, the best thing to do is just go to the pub, and wait for the whole thing to blow over. Yes, and all of this chaos is just happening in your office, and you are drinking a pint. So everything is great as far as you can tell. Let the tomorrow yourself worry about it, because then you will have to do all the firefighting and deal with it. But at that point, you are just having a beer, and it's very nice. Of course, it might not be a fire, it might be a flood, it might be memory leaking, or your cloud expenses could go up. In that case, unfortunately, fire extinguishers don't work, and you're in a bit of a pickle. At that point, it might be worth finding that one firefighter, the one guy who can basically talk to the cloud people and to convince them to let it go, because that was an internal problem, and sail forward with the understanding you probably spend even more money on the cloud, and you really shouldn't be dropped as a client, because then everything will be nice, and you'll have your app, and you will scale it to infinity stars, and it will be great, and they will all make all the money, and you will also make at least some of the money, and it will be very nice.
That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we have a gift for our brave karaoke participants as well. There you go. Thank you very much. All right. Hope you liked it. It was fun. And let's get back to the presentation. All right. So karaoke is over, and I would like Uldis to say a few words as well.
Good evening. Have you seen an evening when I don't talk?
Do I need a mic? Maybe
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, they are so good, yeah. So, this is weird. It's small, you know. Who does not know what is Riga Tech Dinner? Seriously, who does not know what is Riga Tech Dinner? Raise your hands. More hands. Yeah. Okay, you listen. Okay? You listen. Who does know what is Riga Tech Dinner and has been to at least one event? Just 3 people. Okay, let's try. I don't know Anton by his name. Anton, what did you see at the Riga Tech Dinner?
So usually very interesting people are invited as hosts, and I enjoyed usually a very good company talking about interesting topics about our education or about investments. So I highly recommend to visit.
We eat there. Yeah. Do you know this person? Do you know who basically brought Omniva to Latvia and to basically build Omniva? Yeah. And do you know who basically protected Latvia for something like 9 years? Yeah. So I've done a super hard job to get these 2 people to the event on 15th of July. And then if you want to have a chance to get a ticket, and the price is symbolic, the price doesn't matter. This is a WhatsApp group. This is not the ticket. This is the WhatsApp group where we don't talk. We only wait for events and we talk like real people at those events. So feel free to try to get into the WhatsApp group, and the event actually is already available for registrations online, just no one knows about it yet. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much, Uldis. Everyone, join DevOps Tech Dinners as well. It's fun. You get to meet lovely people, you get to talk, you get to eat, you get to drink some beers. All right, so we continue then with so we continue with our second speaker of the night, and give me 1 second.
So Manuel said that he loves, what did you say?
Probably jazz rock, progressive music.
Jazz rock.
Yes.
But Anders, are you gonna put up the presentation?
Yes, I will.
Let me explain to you, Anders. The idea is that we put up the music so that the other person can prepare for the presentation, so that you are not bored. But we kind of didn't really communicate. Right? And now we have this.
So
this is your favorite song. Not my taste, sorry.
Okay.
But this is AI, so.
Yeah, this is AI.
Good luck.
All right, let me present to you Manuel Schuller, the DevOps expert and advisor on our today's topic that we will gladly explain to you all. Good luck. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everybody, once more. We will try to go tonight into that topic, how I use GitOps and CDEvents to achieve automated compliance in a financial services context. Sometimes when I'm invited to less technical meetups or conferences, I also call it CD pipeline automation and compliance, which is maybe more simple for non-technical audience. So we will see how it is in the first version of the title on a real life example, how I did, how I achieved, we achieved as a team automated compliance using some mechanisms that some of you may know, probably know, GitOps and CDEvents. So just before going it's interesting because we went on the first presentation through a long time of history. We will do also on my presentation a piece of history, more IT history and development history. Before that, so I briefly introduce myself. As you may think, I'm what we used to call an IT veteran. So I've been working for several companies, mainly in the DevOps space, even at the very beginning when the term DevOps did not exist. So I've been working for Serena Software, so some of the companies may ring a bell to you, Opsware, HP, now HPE. The interesting stuff is that Serena Software and HPE now have converged into Micro Focus and OpenText, for those who know the history of these companies. Cast Software, which is basically a direct competitor of SonarCube, which is probably more popular. Electric Cloud, CloudBees, which probably rings a bell to a lot of you. And more recently, WePro. And I also work for the Glory, for the DevOps Institute and the Continuous Delivery Foundation, which are two places where we think a lot on different projects. For example, the CD Foundation, we will see that, is the home of the CDEvents project. DevOps Institute is more a training organism. So the DevOps Institute is part of a company, a training company called PeopleCert. So I always introduce those companies. So PeopleCert, doing some training for which when we do a presentation in the name of PeopleCert, we can offer a 10% on all the certifications. Also the Continuous Delivery Foundation, which is the home of a number of projects. So as you see, these projects are CD Foundation projects, so Jenkins and Jenkins X, Tecton for the most popular, CDEvents, we will talk about that later. The members, so some of the popular DevOps vendors, CloudBees, JFrog, Red Hat, and some others. So don't hesitate to go and have a look at those. It's full of resources. It's very, very interesting for people doing DevOps. So as I told you, we will go through a little bit of history. We'll start with how DevOps, some kind of evolution of DevOps principles and DevOps pillars. So over the past 25 years, I will not surprise anybody with that schema. We've gone through a lot of types of infrastructures and applications running on those infrastructures. Especially in the financial services, we start with mainframe. Okay, most of the financial companies today are still running mainframes. Most of the big banks are running mainframe. Some of them are more modern and go to cloud, full cloud and container-centric infrastructure. For example, in Latvia, I had a look. So Swedbank is traditionally running mainframe. They still have all the core banking running on mainframe. Other companies like Luminor, for example, are going towards full cloud. At least they are trying to have development completely cloud-oriented, so microservices running on a container-centric infrastructure. What does it mean in terms of how we develop and how we deliver? It means that we switched from what we used to call monolithic applications, big applications running on the mainframe, where changing anything was quite heavy, difficult. It took a lot of time, and we had very few releases, a couple of releases a year, typically, to update the applications. And we are switching to modular applications rather than monolithic, so very flexible applications. Containers typically communicate with each other through APIs, and it's very easy to change a small part of the application, so one container, and to release the container as a new version of the complete application. So it means that we now have many releases of small applications rather than few releases of big applications. And this is one of the problems that DevOps tackles very well. So if we try to have an overview of the software over the past 25 years, so we have some kind of waves. So I will move so you can see some kind of waves. So the first wave before the 80s was based on languages. So developers had great power to express their programs. So everything was based on languages, but all the rest of the process as we know it today, so testing, releasing, quality, was not the focus. The second one that I used to call methods was the 80s and 90s. The case tools help construct software systems and monitoring. So we had some management tools to, for example, managing the requirements, managing the test, automating if possible. We will see that on one next slide. After that, 90s, 2010s, we introduced the notion of product. So we were working on the software to generate products. So products were helped by disciplined environments with best practices, reusability, quality, and operability. It's the time of CMM, the Capability Maturity Model, for those who know, ITIL, and Agile methods to help develop better. And the very last one, so we are currently here, DevOps, after 2010 roughly. DevOps with pipelines, process as code, or everything as code, which is very trendy. Deployment, release, automation. So we automate the deployment of the software and the release of the software, whatever it means. We will see what it means just after that. And all of this applied to the applications. So applications, very flexible, as we saw on the previous slide, with many releases. One of the KPIs that really changed the software deployment and release world was around 2015, where the deployment frequency of the applications, this data comes from the State of DevOps report. For those who are interested in DevOps, probably you've already been in touch with the State of DevOps report. that has been published for some years by, what was that company, Chef, or Puppet. No, it was Puppet, sorry. By a lady called Nicole Forsgren, who is one of the theoretical people on DevOps. So she's been involved in the publication of the first State of DevOps, and since then, every year there is a State of DevOps. So there is a lot of interviews in a lot of companies, a lot of professionals that give a feedback on where are we on the use of DevOps in the industry, whatever the industry is. Okay, so it can be by financial services, it can be by different verticals, and you have a lot of data. So global data is that around 2015, the deployment frequency got very high just because it became easier and feasible to automate the deployment of software, because we were able to put into some tools the management of the deployment of the software automatically. So this is one of the KPIs that is interesting, that was very interesting to see around that time. 2015, for those who are using some DevOps tools on a day-to-day basis, 2015, this is the year in which Jenkins became the standard, de facto standard for continuous integration. Okay, that where the industry recognized Jenkins and adopted Jenkins as a standard. So the DevOps tooling has matured, is becoming more mature. So what does it mean? That in the first generation or the first wave that we were talking about, we had some job-based tooling. So it was very simple. It was based on scripting. If we wanted to reproduce something, we had to script, basically. Expensive to manage and difficult to evolve, because the people scripting usually keep the knowledge for them and don't like other people to change what they have done, because what they have done probably is the best thing in the world. So the build it yourself, the first generation, transitioned bit by bit to something more, I mean, a process with the connection between the different phases, what I call pipeline-based. So pipeline-based means that I try to reuse what I have and duplicate in the different stages that I will meet, although the stages at that time may have been very, very basic, like development, testing, operation, production, you call it. So what did we have in terms of tools here? Version control for the first generation and scripts. Version control has always been there, okay? So software configuration management is something that we have from the very beginning of software development. The version control system was part of the first versions of Unix. So most of you are working with Linux, I believe. Unix is the ancestor, as you know, of Linux. And in the Unix systems, we had a version control system, which was the ancestor of GitHub, of Git, to manage the sources, so the different versions of the sources. So we had version control system and script, and we transitioned towards the first pipelines where we had some stages. So what do we do one stage after the other? And the notion of environment. I am running on a development environment or a testing environment or a production environment. Okay, just for your knowledge, the notion of environment has been here since the very beginning. I mean, I was working in the 90s for a company, an industrial company, and we were working for the military vertical. And when you were working for the military told, I mean, in the contract, you had that you have to be able to recompile and generate the software for 25 years, which means that what did we have to do at that time to be sure that 25 years later we would be able to generate the same software? It meant keeping the same hardware, keeping the compiler, because we were not sure that 20 years after we would find the same compiler and the same capability to generate the application. So it meant that in some drawers or some cellars of the company, we had some computers with the operating system ready to start and to recompile the software in case we would have to make a change and do another delivery for the military company for which we were working. Okay, so it was just a parenthesis, but so the best practice between the first and the second, at least I can wrap the script into a pipeline using a tool for the stage management. So as I said before, just imagine 3 stages: development, testing, production. So if I find a tool at that time doing stage management, and there were a lot, I could wrap the script so that I could automate them, I could trigger them, even with a poor knowledge of the script. I don't have to know what the script does. I mean, I don't have to understand internally how it works. I just have to know roughly what it does, so I can trigger it, and it's my first version of automation at that time. And I can add some security, so typically some access control, okay, ACL, so access control list. Sorry, yeah. So second transition, my pipeline-based generation towards what I call prescriptive. Prescriptive is do it your way. So you add what your job asks you to put on top of that. So it can be testing, so automating the testing. It can be QA. It can be whatever you want. So typically stages and environment. Yeah, we add the test, the QA. Why not the CI? Okay, so I can have a complete supply chain for my software that is made of all the activities that I want to carry out before being able to say what I will deliver in production has the characteristics that I want it to have. So it can be a certain level of quality, it can be a certain level of test coverage, it can be the embedding some capabilities during my CI. So the best practice is, what did it bring? That brought the fidelity across the environment. So I can, the notion of inventory, so I can define what should be in my environment, and I can also, if my tool is able to do that, I can see the discrepancies between what is expected in an environment and what is really arrived in my environment. The basic example that we used to give is if you expect a certain, certain versions. I was talking at the beginning about microservices, okay? Microservice, if you want to test a microservice with a new interface, you have to have a certain level of versions of other microservices that will test the one you newly deliver. So this is what you expect in terms of inventory of your environment. And if the inventory is not correct, if you don't have the correct content of your environment, you can ask an automated system to repopulate your environment. So repeat the same activities, have configuration templates. This is what you gain, what you have. Know what is where, so the inventory and the manifest. So the inventory is what you really have, the manifest is what you would like to have, and you have a lot of tools. I mentioned previously Chef or Puppet. Okay, these are ancestors of Ansible and infrastructure management tool. You can define a target configuration and apply the target configuration. If the actual environment is not up to date, then it will update it for you using the recipes that it has to deploy the different artifacts that you want to deploy. Another best practice important here at that stage, the change management. I see less and less projects, so I work mainly in the financial services, as I told at the beginning, and I see less and less projects where we do only DevOps or release management or deployment automation, but we do it with the change management. It means that, I give you just one example. When we talk about continuous delivery, CD, means that your application or your product is always ready to be delivered, to be deployed. Okay. In conjunction with the change management, it means that you can have something ready to be deployed, but it has to be authorized by the change management. So it has to be usually authorized, mean planned, with a check of the level of quality. So you have to prove that you have a level of quality, which is nothing else than compliance. So you have to prove your product is compliant. And when it is compliant, then you have to wait for the window for which it will be deployed in the target environment. Hence the change management. This is the change management that takes care of all those aspects. Change management where over the last 10 or 15 years, a company has had a lot of success, which probably you know, ServiceNow. Okay, in a lot of banking institutions, change management is managed through ServiceNow. Okay, also requirement management. This is a good practice that we try to apply. So connect the test result with the requirements. So we had a short talk just before the break about the workshop. Okay, so the workshop is also, correct me if I'm wrong, but the workshop is also to define the requirements. Okay, and then we will go into coding, testing, and deliver to production. So requirement is also a very important aspect of a software project. You define your requirement. You can connect the test result to your requirement. So I have fulfilled that requirement and I can prove it because I have that test. And even better, which is from my point of view more valuable, push features into production. For a very, very long time, we've been delivered in the software world, we've been delivering pieces of code, okay, groups of files that were doing something new, a new feature. But now with all the tooling that we have, so I'm thinking not only about ServiceNow, but also things more light, like Jira, for example. Jira allows you to push some features into production. So I will not push a file, I will push my Jira number 1, 2, 3, 4. So I push some features, which is much more logical for the end user to receive some features. So they have been asking for features, so for requirement, and then they receive the requirement at the moment the software is delivered. More security. Yes, more security, because adding QA, CI testing can mean I can also add code scanning, security verifications, and approvals. Because in some cases, in order to be compliant to some regulations, we still need to have manual hands-off by some people who take the responsibility of saying, I agree for that piece of software to go to the next step or next stage. So we still have to use manual approvals. So now the last step from 3rd to 4th generation, prescriptive to configurable. Apart from the fact that the common aspect of those types of tools for implementing DevOps, I'm most of the time model-based, which means I model, that's what I was telling about environments, okay? So in order to update my environments, I do a model of my environment and I ask a tool to apply that model to recreate my environment. And it's roughly the same for deployment processes, for example. What do I do to deploy a microservice in my Kubernetes cluster, for example? So I have a recipe for that. So I will apply that recipe that will do the deployment of my application on its target environment. So where I was talking about adding what you need to do it your way, here we're talking about a proper DevOps platform. The best practice of having a proper DevOps platform, you can have an audit of everything you are doing, because when you have a platform that is doing things automatically for you, it means that probably that platform will record everything that happens. At least it's a characteristic of most of the platforms we have on the market today. So audit on the approval process, on the automated or manual approvals for the security and the regulations compliance. This is so the focus of, we will see that just after on the implementation itself. Since you have data which is stored, you can do reporting on that data, reporting, dashboarding, whatever you want. And another best practice that is introduced by the notion of DevOps platform is the notion of self-service. It's very important. I see that in most of the projects I am part of, the notion of self-service. If you bring, so one of the trends worldwide in financial institutions, especially in banks are eating each other. Okay, so a big bank acquires a smaller bank, and so on and so on. So when a big bank acquires a smaller bank, what happens? It's quite simple. The big bank usually has a lot of tools and a lot of processes and wants to apply the tools and the processes to what the smaller bank that he has just acquired is doing. And it's not always very simple, especially if you don't go through a self-service mechanism. Self-service means that it's very easy to onboard something that you are doing to a new way of working, typically. Okay, so what we've seen, basically, I'm going very quick. Okay, so remember that slide. We will see it in 6-7 slides about something else. But remember, okay, that progression of scripts, pipelines, complete set of activities, and then complete proper DevOps platform. So the challenge is, the example I was taking just before was a real-life example. So the big bank acquiring a smaller bank. If you do a survey on the technical challenges in software in the financial services, usually you end up with these aspects. One of them, so the one we are talking about today, mainly is security and compliance. So banks that are not able to prove they are compliant to all the banking system norms, and that cannot prove the security of their infrastructure, it will be very difficult for the future. So they have to prove the security and compliance. Business continuity is another one which is also very important. Business continuity is, so one day I've been asked to define business continuity for my granddaughter who is 10. So how can we define business continuity? It's quite simple. Everybody, I mean, according to the average age of the audience here, you were nearly born with Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, or this is something that is part of your day-to-day life. Okay, unlike the first websites that were put online by banks in the 90s, for example, with my bank, I was one of the first to ask to the internet access for managing my bank accounts. And every Saturday, roughly, I had a message if I tried to connect. There is a maintenance ongoing. We will upgrade the software, and tomorrow you will have a new version of your online banking. Okay, thank you very much. But this is something that most of you don't know. You've never seen something like this, because with Facebook or Netflix, which are the two companies usually that everybody talks about, to give that example, with Facebook or Netflix, you never have that message. It's always online, okay? If you connect to Facebook or Netflix right now, it will work. There's no doubt. And sometimes you find new things. So this is business continuity, okay? So it means that you can, it's always available, and sometimes you have new features. So business continuity is also probably the second one for banks. So security and compliance. As I told you, the example of my big bank acquiring a smaller bank is here. One centralized tool groups recommending tool chain, several cloud providers, local data center around the world where different applications live. And most of the time, each business unit, if they want to push software to its designated data center or cloud, they often have their own release team that have their own way of managing releases. They have their own stack of hardware, sometimes also software licenses and processes to work. So this is one of the problems. This is very often the main problem that we have to solve when we're doing DevOps within banks. So I left, I'm very sorry, but I left here something which is, you probably know that in one way or another, the wall of confusion between development and operation. This is where DevOps comes from, okay? DevOps, development operation. And we used to say development is throwing a package over the wall of confusion. Operation is receiving the packet, and when the packet doesn't work, operation says development is working like dogs, and they don't know how to do something that works. And the opposite, development says operation do not know how to operate my beautiful software. So this is the classical stuff. I left that here with 90s look and feel, because this is something that comes, I took some kind of screenshot. It comes from a presentation that we built when I was at the university. You can imagine. I'm talking of the 90s. I started to work in 1990. So, long time ago. So, I will not read all of that. This is the typically boring slide, okay? So the boring slide is, what are the challenges? What do we want to avoid? We spend too much, because sometimes we spend twice. We don't have visibility and control. We have low morale, quality, and business losses. People don't remain because we don't know how to work well. What is interesting in that slide is the next row here. It translates into money, okay? Because you can, unnecessary spending, you can put figures on the spendings. The quality, you can put figures on quality. The people of the organization with low morale, you can put figures because they are leaving, because you have to take new people, you have to train them. Visibility and control, you don't take the right decisions. So you can put figures in front of that. It means that these are lost money. So what are we looking for when we say that we want to avoid that? These were roughly the requirements that I had for the project that I'm talking about. So an increase in compliance audit, in the quality of releases, in the morale of employees, and the real-time visibility of the health of any release. So basically, my customer wanted to be more reassured on the applications and its organization, so the people and the software. And he was looking for impact. So this is what we were measured on. So the benefits, the reduction of spending, efficiency of the savings, the risk mitigation, and the return on investment ROI. And what we did, this is something that has been done by, not by me or my team, but by the customer I was working for. So roughly, this is the investment in red and the benefits in blue, the cumulative benefits. So putting more and more projects, more and more teams, more and more people. And we were talking about roughly 8,000 people working in the IT department. So a lot of people, big company. So the return on investment, the meeting point was after 5 months. Okay? So keep in mind, I mean, some of us have been working for big companies. Okay? 5 months for a big company is nothing, it's tomorrow morning. Okay, 5 months of return on investment is virtually nothing. Okay, so how did we bridge the gap? So how did we achieve that? Some keywords, because they are very important keywords for doing DevOps, I believe. The first one probably that I should put in the first place is automation. Okay, there is no DevOps without automation. Automation to reproduce and systematize. So I don't want to do things manually because I'm not able, I'm a human, just like any one of us. If I do things manually, I will fail, I will make errors because I do it manually. So I want to automate, reproduce the good behaviors. The second one is, on the first place, the shift left. What does it mean, shift left? I mean, everybody has heard about shifting left. Shifting left means that I want to automate as soon as possible in the process. So in the process, if you remember the one of the slides of the lightning talk, the process was I develop, then I'm testing, I can loop on that, and then I will deliver. I will deliver the software, I will install, send, ship the software. Shift left means that I want to take care automatically of all my activities as soon as possible. One of them being the security. Okay, the sooner I take care about the security and the less risk I have to discover security problems after delivering my software, for example, which is a big problem. We all have in mind some bad examples of security failures discovered after delivery, SolarWinds, for example. So shift left means that I will ask my developers, so the guys who develop the application, I will ask them to care about security. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that I want them to become security specialists, but I want them to apply some security checks that the security specialist will tell them to do, to apply. Okay? It has been very important. We will see that in 1 or 2 slides. So security is not necessarily a developer's skill, but it can be a developer's advantage. So the sooner I can take care about the security or the quality in general of my application, then I have an advantage, because I will not see the software come back after saying it doesn't work as designed, there's a security problem, or there's a quality problem. So the sooner the better. The third keyword, which is very important in a big project with many applications, is the notion of single source of truth. Because just take one application, okay? Even if the company is developing thousands and thousands of applications, if I just take one application, I will have the result of the different security checks that can be static analysis, a dynamic analysis, a container security scan, for example. I will have all that information that is related to the version of the application that I am testing. In that case, if I don't have a single source of truth, I will be uncertain when I want to check that information, where to find the information. When I have the single source of truth, I know that I will find the information here. If the information is not here, it means that I did not do the check that I'm looking for. Okay? So, if we talk about the principles for implementing the automated compliance that I was talking about, just take that as the software delivery path. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I am developing or testing. So I have different. There is no pointer. I have different stages. I have my governance process. I build and scan the software in a development environment, integration, and then testing with the users, so user acceptance testing. So typically here, I am developing and testing in what I call some uncontrolled stages. After that, I will switch to some controlled stages where I am delivering the pre-production stage, where I will test typically with production data, and then the production where the application will be sent to the end users. Okay, so what did we do? What were the principles? The principles were that somewhere, we will see where, somewhere GitOps will trigger the pipeline that will go through that delivery path. That pipeline will have some parameters, because depending on the type of application, I have different type of compliance. If the application is internal to the company, I have a certain level of quality and compliance. If the application is external for the customers, I have another level, usually higher, of compliance to achieve. Because I want my users to easily use my system, I have some templates here for the parameters. So are you using, to take the example before, are you doing a mainframe application that will run on a mainframe? Then I have some templates for the parameters. Are you using some microservices that you develop with a certain language? that will run on a Kubernetes cluster, then I have another set of parameters in another template, so that it's easy for the users to choose their template and apply the right level of control. What are those controls? There can be, so I took some example, there can be security controls. So force control, SAST is the static analysis of the code. Force is the open source checks. Okay, if I don't have any vulnerability that has been published for my open source system that I'm using, and different types of scan. But I can extend that. So have in mind that the bank for which we have done that system, for that bank, the security checks are one category. They have 18 categories of checks. Okay, so it can be domain 1, domain 2, domain, and so on and so on. For example, since it's a bank, they have one category for data movement. Because you may know, if you work in the financial services or if you have been exposed to financial services, the data related to financial customers cannot reside anywhere depending on the country you are citizen from. The example we always make is Switzerland. The data of Swiss citizens have to be located in Switzerland. It's not allowed, it's forbidden to have those data located anywhere else. So for data movement, they have to check that the software, the application that will be released is compliant with that. So the application has a test case where you try to move Swiss information somewhere else than within Switzerland. And so on and so on. So depending on the set of parameters here, some of the checks will be applied and the results of the check will be stored into, so I mentioned on the previous slide, my single source of truth. We had some tiny problems here related to the different departments of the company. It was not possible to build one single source of truth, unfortunately. So it was sent to, well, I call it here still the single source of truth, but it's not a single source. It's a repository that is managed by the change management tool. So ServiceNow, since I named it before, ServiceNow is the recipient of a lot of stored values from the software. There's also a policy engine that will apply some policies, and we also feed the software bill of material. So software bill of material could be another 45 minutes presentation, because it is also a very important aspect of building software. And at the end of the day, we can produce with some kind of engine that will validate the controls, an audit report saying, for that control, I'm okay. For that control, I'm okay with the result. For this control, for that domain, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And only if all those controls are green, then I authorize the handoff to production. So the application can be sent to production only if I'm compliant with everything that's been defined. So a quick look at the processes. So this is where we will go in a little bit more into GitOps and CDEvents, because it was in the title. So the processes that we have created for that, we have created different types of pipelines. So that first one is we created a generic security pipeline for which, so every application has to go through that pipeline that basically says, I want to do CI/CD, I want to build a software bill of material. I have a slide on the software bill of material in 3 minutes. But it's not the project or it's not my project focus, says the project manager. My responsibility as project manager is to deliver an application that does credit lending, for example. It's not my responsibility to know how the security of that application should be. It's defined by the security specialists that have defined for me a pipeline made of those stages. So development, integration, delivery, pre-prod deployment, and prod deployment. So let's do a little focus on GitOps at that moment. Like some of you may know, this is the definition of GitOps, I think, as far as I remember, in Wikipedia. So an operational framework that takes the DevOps best practices and applies that to the infrastructure automation. So, you remember, I told you, remember that slide, okay, at a certain moment, with the different waves of tooling. What you have in the GitOps website is the following, okay? Programmatic configuration management, infrastructure as code, GitOps. Now, with the maturity of the cloud operating model and infrastructure automation. So this is what you find in GitOps. The way they define, the way GitOps is defined can be based on those two schema. So in a nutshell, you have a source of truth for declarative code, and you update, and then you apply. Same thing for the right-hand side. And what we took from GitOps on that project was that source of truth, although it's not a single source of truth, but we've tried to have a source of truth that we can rely on. And the second one, it triggers the pipeline. So as soon as something will happen in the development in a GitHub repository, it will trigger the pipeline that will go through the delivery path that I showed you at the previous slide. So my generic security pipeline, what does it do? It does, in the development phase, a lot of static analysis with, so some of the tools you may know, obviously. SonarQube, checkmarks, and IQ server. Then in integration, once more the static analysis for FOSS with IQ server. Once more checkmarks. If there is a problem at that moment, the tool can directly raise a Jira ticket because there is a fix to be done. Okay? And at the end, here it calculates the integration rules, because you see here it's dark gray, because between integration and delivery, we will have some rules that will allow or not to move forward. Same thing for development. So if we focus, if we loop, so yeah, I wanted to show you, so the development one, the development stage. before allowing the development, I have to verify. So this is the principle of these pipeline management tools that define what you do in your stage, pipeline stage, and the rules that allow you to enter the stage, and the rules that you can calculate to exit the stage. So here it's quite simple. In order to execute those scans, the user has to have gone through the training. So if we say it in another way, he has to be able to understand the result of what is done here. And afterwards, so the exit gate rule, so in order to say my development stage is okay, satisfactory, then I have to be below the thresholds for the violations in SonarQube, in checkmarks, and in IQ server. So we define some thresholds. For example, after analyzing the code with SonarQube, I must have less than 3 critical violations. No, it's not realistic. Less than 0 critical violations, less than 3 moderate violations, and less than 10 light violations, something like this. And if it's okay, then I allow the application to go into integration and to have the different checks in integration. Same thing here, and so on and so on. Okay. The example for pre-production also, I calculate, okay, some rules to exit from the pre-production to allow the production, the handoff to production. Same thing about the applications release pipeline. So what I showed you here is the security aspect. Here, so answering the same stuff, I still want to do CI/CD, I want to be compliant, I want to build a bill of material using the security checks provided with my security pipeline, building my software bill of material and applying the internal controls for SBOM compliance and security. So how do I synchronize that? So this is, you may remember here, retrieve the different stages of my security pipeline. So the different security that I showed you just before. Here on top, I may have typically the stages of my application pipeline. So to develop and release my application, I have to go through build and scan, then integration, QA, user until user acceptance, and then pre-production, production. So how does it work? It works with synchronization. So once my application reaches the build and scan stage, it will trigger the activities of the development security pipeline. So it will go through the static scans I showed you just before. And if the result of the static scan are satisfactory at the end of development, it will feed back the information into the main pipeline and allow the application to move forward. Because we know that at that moment, we have the right level of security, the one we are looking for. And for doing that, we have applied the principles of CDEvents. So So it's for adopting continuous delivery with the flexibility to incorporate whatever tooling best suits your specific requirements. So the idea is to say, I can, when I use a tool in my DevOps tool chain, things will happen, okay? Typically, I will static scan my application and it will produce a result. This is an event in my ecosystem, okay? The event of static scan of that application version that produces a result. And the result is stored inside of the single source of truth. So using that mechanism of events, it allows me to synchronize the different activities, strictly security and all the rest. So CDEvents, if you go to the Continuous Delivery Foundation website and you look at the CDEvents project, you will find those schema. Basically, you have an event bus, so a broker, and that broker will take information or will be able to distribute information whenever you need them. So what happens at the moment of building, testing? What happens at the moment of deployment? Things happen within different tools, and if you trap what happens in these tools and you store the information somewhere, then you have an event and you know what to do with that event. So this is one example, although there are many, of one application release pipeline, which is, I think, microservice. So here in the governance process, you see I initiate the bill of material creation and also the CMDB process, because that company still has a CMDB, which is some tools getting a little bit old, the CMDB tools, but some companies still rely on the CMDB. Then after that, I will build the application and scan it, going to dev int, and so on. And remember, in parallel of that, I will have the security checks. So this is the second part of the pipeline until production, number 8, production release. And here you have the synchronization. GSD here stands for Global Service Desk. It's a quite old tool from Computer Associates, now Broadcom, that was an ancestor of ServiceNow, because I named also ServiceNow. One thing interesting, my application release pipeline in the development stage, I have, if you remember, they are the same. I have the same exit gate rules, so I can move forward here in my application development, okay? If the security checks that have been feedback from the security pipeline into my main pipeline are okay, are below the threshold that I was mentioning before. So it's the same conditions that allow the application to move forward. And just one quick slide on the software bill of material. Some of you may have been exposed to a software bill of material. This is, so in 2021 in the US, Joe Biden has made an executive order that makes a software bill of material mandatory for commercial software. So any commercial software in the US should have a software bill of material. Same thing in Europe. So we've been inspired here in Europe by that executive order saying it's a good thing, let's create one. And it's called the European Cyber Resilience Act, which is from 2023. And that has to be applied since November 2024, so a few months ago. Typical use cases for the software bill of material. So if you are interested in software bill of material, there is a lot of things. You can Google SBOM and you will find a lot of things. There are some companies doing software bill of material. I just named one, which is Code Secure. I have some friends working in Code Secure. It's a US company based in Texas, if I don't mistake. So the uses of the use cases for the bill of material automation for deploying and releasing software, because you know what your software is made of, you know the way it has been built and deployed. Same thing, so for the compliance, because you have the results of the different checks and the different tests that are part of your software bill of material. And understand the complexity, because so it's not the first time I mention Unix. I mentioned it for the configuration management. I mentioned it also, so in one of the first versions of Unix, you had something called YAC, which was yet another compiler. It was a compiler for creating a compiler. So if you create a language, you can use that to compile your language and produce applications. So, but the software bill of material could be described as yet another artifact. The software bill of material is an artifact, but is an artifact that describes all the content, so all the artifacts that make up your application. So yeah, this is nearly philosophical, but once, I mean, when I started to work, when I was talking about my military stuff, okay, the software bill of material was meant to describe how the software was built, and that's it. Now, it becomes how the software is released or delivered. So the description of all the scans, all the tests, all the checks that I have made, all those results should be part of the bill of material. So it's an extension of the notion, comparable to audit and compliance evolution over time, focused on software delivery security, or how to secure my supply chain. So an important aspect of the software bill of material, it's typically escrowed. So this is something that neither you as the software supplier nor the customer who is receiving the software keeps for himself. If you want to give value to a bill of material, it has to be escrowed. So just like you do at your notary when you buy a house, for example, your notary keeps the papers of the house. So this is what escrowed mean. So SBOM can be another meetup at another moment. The production stage, yes, you remember, okay, the entry gate. So I can enter production and do that only if I have my bill of material entry check, okay? I still have my CMDB, check. I also have the immutability, the software bill of material to be accepted by the Cyber Resilience Act and the executive order has to be immutable. So you have to be able to prove that you cannot modify it since the very beginning. So from the first line, first information that is put in the software bill of material, it should never be modified. And you have some databases that I think one of them, big surprise, called ImmuDB, immutable database, where when you do a commit in the database, you can never change or delete it. Okay, and so we reached the end. Sorry, I've been talking a little bit more than expected, but okay. Couples of lessons learned. So implement DevOps processes. The bottom line here is that it's useful. It's useful, and you will get some feedback and some return on investment. Even with a minimal set of tools, internal or external tools, but it's worth it. Second one, do follow the state of the art company-wide, because the competitors do or will do very soon. So there's always the risk for any company to be late on adopting DevOps principles and automation. Okay, there's always the risk to be late. And at the last one, with automated and self-embedded control, it's easy that culture and best practices get disseminated within the organization. If within the project, okay, you get the buy-in of many people that help you, for example, here, the security people, okay, the security people were very, very helpful. We worked really hand in hand to implement all those security checks. And now all the development teams are convinced that security is something very positive for them. So it allows to detect very early problems in their software potentially. Okay, and as I said, it was the end. So thank you very much for listening so long. Sorry for being a little bit long, but okay. I hope.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Wow, thank
and
you.
We have a lovely gift for us, for you.
Yes, yes.
From us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for attending. So, maybe there are some final questions for someone?
Yeah.
So, with the mix of the automated and manual processes, how long does it take to go through the pipeline steps sort of magnitude? So, if you are moving from development to that, you mentioned the software still developed quickly, but how quickly are the stages going through? Is it like days, weeks, months? What is the speed of those?
It depends. It depends because it depends really of the. You may remember at the very beginning there were some parameters to the pipeline. So what shall I ask the pipeline to verify? Because some of the checks are done outside. We still have a lot of people doing CI, and they're doing a lot of scans with the CI. In that case, they will not ask the pipeline because it's already done. Okay, it's already done. The result is already stored. So they don't ask the pipeline to do the static scan, for example. This is the typical. So they do the static scan as part of their CI job, Jenkins job. Okay. So they do it in Jenkins, so they will not ask the pipeline tool to do it once more because it's already done.
Because it's triggered automatically.
Yeah. So it really depends, but for one stage, we are talking about days. Okay, half days, sometimes.
Okay. Just wanted to get to others because you did mention that the software development speeding up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. Yes.
This is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. All right. So we have come to an end. So we have come to an end. To thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks everyone who came today, and thanks our general partner today, and for this season of DevOps and AI meetups, Arvato Systems Latvia, and you can send your feedbacks about the event. If you scan the QR codes, you can scan it and leave a comment, what you liked, what you didn't, and it will help us greatly in the future when we organize these kinds of events, and we will know what to do differently, what keep the same, things like that. All right, yeah, this will only take a second. There's like a couple of questions. And afterwards, do we do the... We can ask, yes, okay. So as per tradition, those who want to stay can stay in the Workland lovely offices, and we can have like a small discussion about things that people are interested in. It's like, yes, this one. Oh, yes,
So,
I'm sorry.
A funny story. So the last time there was a funny story. The last time there was a young guy who was basically lost on his journey, and this after talk, we were a small group. We talked. There were some 4, 5, 6 people, and he's not here today. I don't know why, but now he's super happy. He has found his journey, his calling. He is in my sales team, but that doesn't matter. But generally, this is a place where people can find something new, something different. People share their experiences and solutions to each other. So I'll be on a sofa for like 2 minutes. If no one joins, then I'll leave. But if someone wants to have a chat, 2 people or 3 or 5 or 7 people, then let's have it. Very quick chat because it's already rather late.
All right, thank you. Can mute this one. All right.
That was it.
And that is it. Yes, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming.